I just wanted to come on here to explain a little bit about what tics feel like, because you guys have been asking some questions about it and about a few of my tics. So to start off, I want to say, like, you're not going to entirely understand unless you also have tics some of what I'm going to say. It's just a feeling that I don't know how to completely describe in a way that you would fully get. And secondly, I don't speak for everybody who has Tourette's, who has tics. I don't know other people's experiences, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna tell you what my experience with it is and the way that they feel for me physically, mentally. First of all, we'll talk about simple tics and a premonitory urge. So a premonitory urge is basically where you get this sense or this feeling that a tic is coming. It's kind of like when you can feel a sneeze or a cough coming in a way, but it's more like it creeps up on you, if that makes sense. And typically most of mine happen just like a split second before the tics, but not always. Sometimes, especially if I'm having heavier tics at the time, it's just more of a constant electricity. Again, it's a combination of mental knowing that it's gonna happen and a physical feeling. I don't want to say that it's like electricity running up your body, but it kind of is. Like, it's like you can feel it like here and here. And then my vocal tics, I can also feel back here, but not like in my mouth. Picture yourself visualizing a pickle jar, right? You don't know where the pickle jar is. Like, you can't tell me where you see it, but you can see it. It's sort of similar where I can't tell you exactly where I feel the premonitory urge, but I can feel it. But yes, you can feel tics coming on for the most part. Sometimes they creep up on you, and that's typically what happens when I have a lot more like simple tics, like my whistles, or when I just like, not like shout, but like, you know? Like the premonitory urge is less noticeable in my opinion. They just happen quicker, faster, stuff like that, because they're less impactful on my body. That being said, let's talk about some of the more complex tics and why they happen and what they feel like. A great example of this is like complete phrases. This is going to sound weird, so just bear with me. The phrase itself isn't fully a tic. And I know that sounds so weird. So just bear with me. The first part of the phrase, at least in my experience, is the tic. Like one of my tics for a while, I don't know where it came from, genuinely no idea, but it stuck around for a few months and occasionally it'll come back. But it is Jiminy Cricket's Tarzan. That's a lot of cash. Don't know where it came from. Don't know why that is. The Jiminy Cricket's Tarzan was pretty much the tic, but it had to go in a phrase together or else I would tic the rest. So if I said only the first part, like if I only said like Jiminy Crickets or Jiminy Cricket's Tarzan, I would have to finish it or else it wouldn't be satisfying. Like if you see like satisfying videos on Instagram, like if they stop right before the satisfying part, then you're wanting the satisfying part, right? Complex phrases are the same way, where the first part is a tic, but then if I stop there and I don't finish the sentence or the phrase or the word, it turns itself into a tic because it's not satisfying enough to not finish it. So I just go ahead and say the whole phrase because the first part was a tic, but the next part will turn into a tic if I don't go ahead and say it quickly. And that brings me into the breathing tic. So a lot of people were like really concerned and asking about the tic where I hold my breath and I can't breathe. I wanted to like explain what it feels like, explain why it happens, to the best of my ability and as far as I know. So that tic actually comes from an inhaling tic that I have. I'm going to explain this the best way that I can, but again, I don't know how to fully explain the way that it feels. The tic itself is the inhale. It's me inhaling aggressively over and over and over again, and I can't exhale. And if I do exhale, it's like a split second. I exhale a little bit, not enough to get breath in, like back in, but I just exhale a little bit. And then I keep inhaling, and it's like a balloon getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger inside my chest, and there's no way that I can control it. And it feels awful. The best way that I can satisfy that tic urge is to just hold my breath. And in a way, it's like that itself becomes the trigger, where when I try to exhale, not only do I inhale right again after that, but it also, like, exhaling itself feels bad in a way. Like, I don't know how to explain the way that it feels. But I'm witnessing a man go absolutely wild on a skateboard listening to something in his headphones, and he just went. And I thought that was really funny. Basically, so the breath holding itself is a way to alleviate the urge to tick, because when I tick that much, I inhale that much, it's like there's a balloon inside of my rib cage. I mean, I guess that's kind of what lungs are, but there's a balloon inside of my rib cage, and if it keeps expanding, it's gonna hurt. It sends shooting pain through my ribs. It feels like I'm being stabbed in the chest. It hurts so bad. I feel like I can't breathe afterwards, and that's because with the inhale tick, when I get the urge to tick that, it just keeps going. And so when I hold my breath, it is partially a tick and partially a way that I can kind of redirect that tick energy into just not letting myself breathe instead until the urge goes away. And I had not had that tick in front of my friends at the time, which is why they looked so scared. So they didn't know at the time that that's kind of what was happening. But in a way, like, the breath holding itself is a tick, but it's a redirection of the tick itself that causes me a lot of pain. I don't know how to explain to you. Like, if you're a woman, this is also going to sound weird, guys. If you're a woman, you know that feeling where sometimes you just get this stabbing pain right here. And every woman I've ever talked to knows right here. It hurts so bad sometimes, and you just can't get relief. It feels kind of like that, but in my whole chest if I breathe too hard. And so when I have that tick, I just inhale, 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 inhale. This is going to be a reenactment, so it's not going to look or feel exactly like the tick, but it's like... So, like, if you can see, like, that exhale is not enough to do anything successfully. Like, it's not enough to recuperate my breath and my breathing, and it feels awful, and it's not enough to release that balloon pressure. The holding breath, like, tick is itself a tick, but it's a redirection. It's a redirected tick of the tick that would actually be there, if that makes sense, because it's a way to lessen that pain. But that itself is the tick. I guess the best way I can explain the way that a tick itself feels like, basically, like, the urge to tick is really, really, really uncomfortable. It's kind of like, I would explain it, it's not gonna be exactly like this, but this is the best way I can explain it to people who don't tick. When you are sick and you have the urge to cough, if you hold that cough in, it builds and builds and builds and gets uncomfortable physically, mentally. It distracts you. It makes you uncomfortable. It hurts, stuff like that. That's kind of what it feels like to suppress a tick. And then when you can finally let that cough out and it comes out a big cough, it's like coming like from deep in your chest, deep in your throat. And it's just the biggest cough you've ever felt. And it is so satisfying. That's kind of what it feels like, where when I can let those ticks out, it relieves this like discomfort in a way that it's so hard to explain. That's why people with Tourette's should be allowed to tick, is because it's kind of like holding in a cough. Is it physically possible? Yeah. Is it really difficult to do? Yeah. Are we always successful? No. And should we have to do it? No. So that's kind of the best way I can explain it, especially for the ticks that don't look like ticks. Those are redirective ticks, where I am essentially preventing another tick from happening by going ahead and allowing myself and allowing my body to do something else, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's what ticks feel like, at least to me. And again, it's not going to be a perfect explanation, but if you've ever gotten a tattoo and your artist kind of hits a nerve just right with the needle and you jerk, motor ticks feel like that, but with the urge to do them. A lot of common triggers for people with Tourette's is repetition and rhythm. For example, my Noah tick was triggered because my professor in that class was cussing at a kid for playing Fortnite while he was kind of zooming into the class because he was supposed to be sick, and he was on the thing with the projector, and she was like, Noah, trying to get his attention. And it was repetitive and it had a rhythm. Like, it wasn't just like Noah, it was like Noah. And that lodged itself into my brain, and my brain wanted to tick it because it was repetitive and rhythmic. If you have any questions, let me know, and I might do a video on the different types of tics. Why some people with Tourette's, only about 10% of people with Tourette's have coprolalia, which are the inappropriate tics. That's just my best. It's my best attempt at explaining it. If you guys have any more questions about my tics in specific, let me know.